I'm Paul Schroeder of Hub City Woodturners. This afternoon we're going to be doing a demo on coring bowls using the one-way coring system. But first I thought I'd talk a little bit about salvaging wood and some of the things I look for. So what we have here is 2 pieces of box elder maple or Manitoba maple. What I've done is they are from different pieces of the log, but let's assume they are the same log. And what I've done is I've sawn them in half to get the pith right in the center of the 2 logs, so that that's chainsawed. And sometimes, well, almost always, you want to make sure you're looking at both ends of the log that you're cutting so that you center the pith, because the pith does not always run straight. Once I've salvaged logs, I always bag everything up in plastic bags while it's in the rough log, and that is to prevent moisture loss and drying out. And it's amazing how quickly wood can dry if it's just sitting in your shop. And certainly don't transport it back home in your truck with the cover off and the wind blowing. You may be surprised how much it dries out. So what we have here then is a one piece that is roughly 13 inches in diameter. We will core out a 9-inch section, and we will core out an 11.5-inch bowl as well. And what I'll be using is, like I said, the one-way system, and we will use 2 approaches. The original one-way bits, they're very functional, but as always, someone comes up and builds a better mousetrap. Hunter Tools has come up with a small carbide bit that clears chips more easily, and so we'll see if we can note the difference. We'll take the small bowl out with the 9-inch knife, and we'll take the large bowl out using the Hunter tool system with the Hunter tool bit, and that is sold in Canada, I believe, by Branches to Bowls out of Calgary. What I use for shaping the bowls prior to coring is the Elio driver. It was initially developed by Elio Menace, one of our club members out of Lloydminster, and then sold by One Good Turn out of Edmonton, and it is currently being made by Todd Rains, and he's in the US, and possibly what we'll do is put a link to the one Elio safe driver on the website at the bottom of the video. So the driver has 3 spurs, and what I do is I start it in my center point, and then I use a mallet, usually on the floor, not on my good table saw, to start the driver, and then these spurs can all be driven in with an Allen wrench, and that then gives you very good holding power on the lathe, and it also makes it possible, once you're on the lathe, to still tilt your bowl very slightly to give it its best orientation. And maybe what we'll do is we'll put this on the lathe just to quickly show you how it fits up, and then we'll switch to doing the coring using the one-way system. So with the Elio driver, you have the possibility of tilting slightly to get a better alignment on the outside of your bowl to make sure that it sits flat. And it is more flexible than what a faceplate would be. So that is one of the advantages of the driver. And I will just very quickly tighten this up, and we'll finish turning the tenon for the Talon chuck. So what you want to do is you want to have your chuck grip not only on the edge, but you want the shoulder of the chuck also up against the shoulder of the bowl blank so that you get a good fit. I'll just quickly turn this on and we'll finish turning this. So I simply want to take this shoulder down to just under or just slightly over 5 inches, and that will give me a good hold, and I think that should work. I want to show you just quickly when you're turning and the initial bowl blank, it can be quite rough and out of shape, and I try to turn so that I am not in the direct path of the bowl blank should it come off the lathe. So I'll turn this portion from this side and then I will come back. I will turn this portion of the bowl from the base of the bowl so that at no point am I standing in the way of a 15-pound bowl blank should it come off the lathe. I'm using the stronghold chuck, and I have turned the tenon on the bottom so that it is just slightly shallower than the depth of the chuck here, and that way I have pressure on the shoulder of the bowl and not pressure in the bottom of the chuck, and in that way I get a better hold. Each of the coring systems has a depth that works, and what I've done for the bowl blanks that we're turning here is we will eventually turn an 11.5-inch bowl out of here, and using the 11.5-inch knife, this board gives me the spacing on my lathe sitting flat against that lip and against the coring system here. So in that way, I know I won't go through the bottom of the bowl. And this, once it's set up, allows me to core every bowl that comes out of here set at the same position. I am going to be using the one-way knife to core the 9-inch bowl out of here, and we will start, and I typically run my coring system at about 500 RPM, and the secret is to be somewhat gentle. This is working quite well today. It depends a little bit on the moisture of the wood. And my lathe is a light lathe. If I chose to, I could easily stall the motor out. A coring system would work smoother on a large one-way lathe than on, oh, we're through quicker than I thought we would be. So here is our small salvage bowl out of the center. Lots of times what I'll do is dry those out and just bring them to a club meeting and give them away. It's a kind of a fun little part that someone can take and work with it. But now what we'll do is we'll switch to the Hunter carbide bit system, and we'll take an 11.5-inch bowl out of this 13-inch bowl blank. I'm running the 11.5-inch one-way knife to take an inside 11.5-inch bowl out, and I will have a wet outside rough turned bowl of 13 inches, and that will give each bowl about 1.5 inches of width, and that should be enough to allow for warpage and for it to be turned a second time and turned true. What I like to do is to run some tailstock support. Some people don't, but a small amount of tailstock support running into the center of the bowl makes it feel safer and makes it safer, and it perhaps is even more important if you have a small lathe that you don't want to overtax. So we're going to see if there's a difference in how the Hunter bit cuts compared to how the one-way bit cut. And I think probably what we should do at this point is to stop the lathe and just run the knife support into the inside of the curve. And what that helps ensure is that you don't bend your long knife once you get further into the bowl. Yeah, you might as well shoot this. Okay. Okay, we're going to have to back away here a bit. We will recenter everything once we have the knife guide in. There we go. But just let's make sure we have the right depth. We will set the board back up. Just a slight adjustment to make sure we're following that same path fairly closely. And let's see if this will start more smoothly. That looks like a good start. And the knife is fitting in there. And we will tighten that. It's a good idea to clear the shavings from time to time. And we're close to being through, so we'll take it carefully. And we have roughly a 9-inch bowl, which is a little smaller than I thought we would get out of here, but that's okay. We were a little off center. But what we have here now is a bowl on the outside that is not quite 13 inches. And so a lot of times what turners who are coring will say is this is the money bowl. That's the one that you want to save to make sure that you don't go through the bottom. So we have a small bowl with some nice figure, some nice color in it, and then we have a larger bowl here that has some bright color in it, and although I'd hoped this would maybe give me a little bigger diameter, I'm still very satisfied that I've salvaged what I would consider the best bowl out of this. You always want to make sure that the big bowl is the one that you core in such a manner that it's usable. Okay, I'll take this off the lathe and then I'll show you what I do for drying, and there are lots of drying options. Okay. So what we've managed to do here is to create 3 bowls, and again I think I maybe could have gone a little narrower here and ended up with a slightly bigger bowl here, but when I see that the pith has let go here, I'm not disappointed in the fact that we salvaged the big bowl. Manitoba maple doesn't, or box elder maple doesn't always hold up without getting punky, and in this instance it was a little punkier than what I thought it was. But I'll show you now what I do for drying, and it'll be kind of a magical moment because I am opening up my drying barrel from a turning that I did in February. So let's see what we find, and then we will stick this in there to dry. So here we have the moment of open sesame, and we will find out what things look like from a February turning. And inside here we have some bark-free elm. That one looks like it has let go a bit. This one is better, but I don't mind a few cracks. I do butterfly inserts. So let's take a moisture meter and see what 6 months of drying has ended up with. And our moisture meter tells us that we are at 8 to 10% moisture, which is about as dry as you will get with air drying. Both of the large bowls are testing the same for moisture. So if the large bowls are dry, then the small bowls will certainly be dry. Although not developed for wood turning, Gun Treat is one of the best moisture chasers in the market and very good at preventing corrosion. So what I do when I'm done turning wet wood, I tend to spray my lathe ways down and to slide things back and forth. And especially what I'll do is I'll spray inside the post rest or the post holder and just slide things up and down. And that way I don't come back 3 days from now and find a thin layer of rust on my equipment from turning wet wood.
Okay.
To dry these bowls, I will put them in my cardboard barrel and just lay them in a haphazard manner. And because there aren't very many, and I don't want a lot of air movement, I will cover them just with a heavy paper bag to try to reduce airflow, and hopefully those are ready by an October meeting. And if we run the video in October, I'll bring the bowl blanks and we'll give some out in the draw. Thanks a lot. Take care.